Hey, it's another younger than last year. Hi, this is Robert Troch, and today I want to talk about foundation number 5, mobility, and the other part, which is flexibility. The differences between the two. We're going to kind of talk about flexibility a little today. Flexible mind is one thing, flexible body is a whole other thing. And look, we're emerging from lockdown still. You might have only stuck your toe out. You might be working from home. You might be working more hours at home than you did when you went to the workplace. Although, if you count commuter time for some of you, it might be just might have been more going to work. So, either way, you might be spending a lot of time in front of a computer sitting. And that will make you tight. That will age your body. That shuts systems down. And look, the USA, which is where I live, it's a great place. I doubt if I'd live in any other country. But for all its, for all the money here, for all the bigness of this place, we're a pretty sick country. Obesity, for example, which is not particularly about flexibility, but we're getting to that. Obesity, for example, 100 years ago here wasn't such a problem. What happened in the last 100 years? People say, well, it's genetics. I say, well, you telling me genetics changed in 100 years that quickly? I would say it's the availability of food in this country. It's very available all the time. And it's TVs, computers, cars, the office, sitting, not getting out, stretching the muscles. And look, just moving around stretches the muscles. And when you do that, it sends signals to your nervous system, which also gets the systems going in your body. And we got a lot of systems, right? For your immune system, for instance, your lymphatic system, right? That's one. That's a big one. When you're moving, the lymph nodes, things pump. The circulatory system, the veins down in your legs, your heart's way up here, and the used blood is way, way down here. That's the blue blood. That's the blood that's been used, the oxygen's been extracted, and it needs to get back to the heart and lungs to be reoxygenated again. But the problem is when it's way down there, the heart, as powerful as it is, and I'm going to show you how strong the heart is in just a second, it really has trouble pumping blood, that venous blood, the blue blood, from way down here. It's a long way. So the way it moves and gets up and flows is by moving. Stretching's another way. So you don't have to get up. Let's say you don't have time to get up and walk. You can just do some stretching. But a lot of people could be stretching a lot better and get a much better bang for your buck. Now, I promise you I'd tell you about the heart. A nurse showed me this many years ago. Very simple. This is how amazing your heart is. Take your hand in a fist and squeeze it as hard as you absolutely can, right? Your heart squeezes probably harder than that on every single pump to make the blood circulate. Think about that. And it does it without you not thinking about it, right? That's pretty amazing stuff. But let's help it out a little bit and move around, and let's stretch out a bit. And as you get older, stretching out, and there's many ways to do it. You can do it moving, static. I'll show you a couple ways. Is really important. It moves higher and higher up. Your strength, your flexibility, your mobility, which I'll tell you the difference between those two. Then I promise we'll get to a couple things. Those physical things become even more huge and must be done on a daily basis. One, not at the same level every day or anything, but you need to be doing some of them. So, mobility, flexibility, foundation number 5. If you've ever paid attention to the younger than last year, and why wouldn't you, right? You might have seen foundation number 5. Now, mobility, well, let's do it like this. Here's the difference between flexibility and mobility, right? Flexibility is more of a static kind of thing, at least the way I define it. So if you take, let's say, your leg on a chair, right? And you're stretching the back of your leg, your hamstrings, right? And maybe you can bend forward, maybe you can't. Maybe you can do it with a straight knee, maybe you can't. Maybe you can do it with a higher leg, whatever. It's resting there. And when you're stretching here like this, it's no effort on your part, really, although we can make it more effortful. There's other ways to do it. And right here, you would just breathe easy, get that rest and digest, parasympathetic nervous system up and running. I've talked about that in other episodes. And just get the muscles to relax a bit. That's flexibility. Now, mobility would be a leg raise under your own strength. So now you have to be able to lift your leg and lower it under your own strength, which takes strength and flexibility, right? So it's both. Now, here's the cool thing. Let's get something a little higher. We'll do hamstrings today. What do you think about that? That's tight on a lot of people, especially us guys, but not across the board. I've seen plenty of women with very tight hamstrings and hips. Here we go. You can test yourself. Take your leg up and just do this hamstring test here. Stand up tall. Don't slump. Don't contort. Hold on to something for balance if you need, and see how far you can get your leg up where it's not getting cranked on, but it's getting a mild stretch right about here, right? Mild. Now, step away. Put your hand on something for balance again if you need it. Do not kick your leg. Lift it. See how high you can lift and lower. Try that a couple times. Excuse me. When the heat comes on, I sneeze a few times a day. It's winter here. So, did you notice how high you could get your leg up? And you had to, maybe this would have been too high for you, whatever you used. Notice the height that you rested your leg on compared to the height that you were able to lift your leg. The greater the difference between the two, the more trouble you might get yourself into. So, for instance, I brought this up last week. There's ice going to be on the ground here. It's winter. It's December here. And sooner or later, we're going to get some ice on the ground. It gets pretty slippery. And when you slip, that requires strength. It requires reflexes and sometimes some flexibility to catch yourself. I just met, I know a woman, she's 84. No, 85, I think. Betsy, I think, is 84 or 85. She was out walking last week, and Betsy walks every day. So Betsy has kept herself in good shape. She tripped over a sidewalk, fell right forward, and cracked her elbow. Now she's got to have surgery. So maybe you could have prevented that, maybe not. There are ways to learn in jiu-jitsu and judo when you're falling to get comfortable with just rolling. That's a whole nother thing. But all the main thing is that would have been a mobility thing when you're slipping. To catch yourself with flexibility with strength, that's mobility. Flexibility is just more of a static thing. So let's do some of that today. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to work on the hamstrings because a lot of people sit a lot. And so I'm sure you felt this in a long car ride sitting. You stand up and maybe you make the old person noise when you sit down or get up. So back to your legs, maybe your low back. Just everything feels so stiff. And just to get yourself up straight might take like 15, 20 seconds. That's where you take your breath. So step one, Let's breathe in through your mouth like this. Through your nose, sorry. Like so. Close your mouth. Take the breath, start it right at the bottom of your lungs like this. And just let it out through your mouth. Notice if your shoulders rise way up in the air. That's not starting down here. That means you're breathing up in your top of your lungs and in your throat. Move it down. Close your mouth. Imagine you're sucking your air through a straw, right? Notice I got a nice full breath here right in my lungs, and let the air out. Okay? Now we're going to get here in the rock position on all fours. Let's just rock back and forth 10 times. The way to do this and get the most out of it, keep your head up. You don't have to look way, way up, but do not droop your head. Keep your chest up. And the big one, especially for your flexibility in the hamstrings, as you rock back, beware if your back starts rounding. I think I can do it like this. Keep your back long and straight. So if you get right here and it starts rounding, don't go past that point too much. Or maybe you can go a couple inches with awareness and still keep it straight, right? So slow down so you can feel it. Head up, chest up, flat back. And almost think of yourself like a bellows, a pump with your breathing. Okay. Now, we're going to get directly in the back of your legs. Take your left leg forward, like so. Your hands are still on the ground. You can take, here it is from the front. You can take the left foot out to the side a little bit or wherever out there. I wouldn't take it this far out, but out here somewhere. And rock back. This time, you're letting this knee straighten. Now, don't jam on it and go as hard as you can on that leg. Just take what it gives you, breathe easy, and do as many of these as you can or want to. It's not hard. Shouldn't be a hard thing. Until this hamstring, maybe we'll start loosening up and you'll be able to go a little deeper. Now in this one, as far as the rounding back, still trying to keep kind of a flat back. What happens is right here, your hips like tuck under like so, right? And your back rounds. Just think of reaching back with your butt. Just like you're sliding down a ramp. Let's switch legs. Now this one's mobility a bit more, right? Because we're moving. But what you can do is hold the stretch. Let's say take about 6, 7 rocks to work into it a little. Because when you first do this, sometimes it's kind of stiff. Now, let's hold this. So go into a bit of a stretch. Don't crank on it. Just kind of get into a bit of a stretch. Like right here, it's stretching on me. And you can let the foot lift like this if you need to. You don't have to keep it down. And keep your breath going. Just into your mouth, into your nose, out through your mouth. Into your lungs, and out. Just let the breath puff out. You don't have to forcefully push it out. Stay low, so don't come up. Stay low. And then you can work back and forth a few times and test it out and see if it's feeling better. Often it is. Like mine is. I worked out my hamstrings hard yesterday, so they're a little tight. And that little thing I did there, that hold and then back to the rock, really, I could feel the difference. So now I'll show you a flexibility, a static one where you don't move. And this will show you why. Let me flip this camera up just a little bit more. This will show you what happens, why I was harping on don't let your back round. If you, let's say you're squatting, right? Often a person can't squat that far. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. One reason why is because the hamstrings just don't want to let go. And then because of that, the back will start rounding and it'll start looking really ugly, right? Your back will round if your hamstrings are fighting all the time. It will move up into your back. Your back will try to make up for the lack of flexibility down here. And think of how that would hammer on a low back, many years of moving around like that. So here's one way to get in there that feels really good. This is an L stretch on the wall. So take your hands on the wall like so. Spread your feet out about width of your hips or so. Could be a little wider if you want. Doesn't have to be a perfect L. Now, if you can, try to keep your knee straight. So if that means you got to walk your hands a little higher up the wall and you're in not a perfect L, that's fine. Because the next thing we're going to work on is that back. So I'm going to inhale, then exhale. And I kind of reach back, sit back in my hips. Don't come forward, reach back with your hips. So the back of your butt is reaching towards the wall behind you. I'm going to come lower here. Keep your palms glued against the wall. Don't let your head droop. Just keep your head right in line with your back. Notice you get a nice stretch through your shoulders too. The backs of your legs, in your low back. Reach back equally with your right hip and your left hip. Notice I got even a little arch in my low back, so I'm keeping that natural curve. So this is a great feel. This feels great. You can feel my back getting a nice lengthening right there. Whew, actually feel maybe half-inch taller after doing that. So those are a couple things you can do for your hamstrings. In the morning's not a bad time. Get out of bed, use the bathroom. If you want to make some coffee or something, and after about 15 minutes of being up, you can do those rocks or do the L stretch, which you can use any time of day, and you can do it most anywhere. The rocking, not so much, but that L, you can do that almost anywhere, even at work. Go outside, go to when you're in the bathroom, wherever. You can just hold it for 30 seconds to a minute, and you'll feel the difference. Feels great. So if you've been sitting a lot too during the day, not a bad idea. Remember, help your body out, help your heart out. Right? Move, stretch. When you stretch like that, that makes the muscles change shape. So that helps pump things, right? That gets your nervous system going too. There's a lot of different connections in your body. So if you like these stretches, let me know, because I got a million of them for all kinds of different parts of your body. Trouble spots for here in your elbows and wrists and your shoulders and front of the hips, side of the hips, inside, all kinds of stuff. So get out, get some stretching done. If you're watching this live, we're in December and we're heading towards the end of the year. So New Year's is coming soon. We're going to have an event here at the studio, New Year's Day morning, 11 a.m. for students that are already doing younger than last year. Plus, we're doing, yes, you're here. It won't be long. We'll be hearing the music. Should old acquaintance be forgot? Yep. Um, but also for anybody that lives around this area, Clinton Hill, Brooklyn, the studio on at 227 Waverly Avenue. We'll put it up on the screen when we're done. It would be great to see you if you're local. Forget about New Year's resolutions. We're just get started on New Year's Day, and we'll get started doing some really enriching, great stuff for you, the most important person in the world, you. And that's it. I'm going to go hang from the bar and stretch out. I'll see you next week.